The room was dark and full of smoke. Only rich aliens were allowed to enter. Their eyes glowed, their clothes shimmered, and their hunger was not for food, was for something rare. At the center of the room, a silver case stood on a table. Guarded by two lizard-like soldiers, the auctioneer, a thin alien with golden skin, raised his hand. "Today, we offer something that no royal has tasted before," he said with a sly grin. The case opened slowly, revealing a small glass vial filled with glowing amber liquid. A strange, sweet scent filled the air wand that made even the coldest aliens lean forward. "This is called nectar," the auctioneer whispered. "Taken from a living human." Gasps filled the room. Whispers followed. Impossible, illegal, too dangerous. But none of them left. Instead, they all stared at the vial like it was the key to eternal power. One alien noble, large and covered in blue fur, stood up. "How can we be sure it is real?" he asked. The auctioneer smiled and pressed a button. A hologram appeared, showing a young human man strapped to a machine. Clear tubes ran from his body into a collector. He was kept alive during the process. The auctioneer said. The nectar was harvested with care. A silence followed. Then the bidding began. 10 million credits, shouted one. 15, yelled another. 25 million. Came a voice from the back, calm and sharp. Everyone turned. A tall, masked alien stepped forward, one of the royal chefs of the Zahar Empire. T said no more. The room knew he had won after the auction. The masked chef took the vial to a private chamber. There, he opened it slowly and dipped a silver spoon into the nectar. He placed one drop on his tongue. The effect was instant. Colors brightened, sounds sharpened. His heart raced like a starship engine. He saw the universe in layers, felt time slow down. He laughed a long, deep laugh that echoed through the chamber. "This," he whispered to himself, "is beyond flavor. This is divine." Across the stars, on a quiet moon station, a human girl named Maya stared at the empty bed where her friend used to sleep. His name was Aaron, and 2 weeks ago, he was taken during a supply run. No one knew where, no one knew why. But Maya had a bad feeling. She opened his locker and found a note hidden behind the wall panel. It had 3 words. "They want nectar." Maya didn't understand. But the word nectar sent a chill down her spine. She knew one thing: Iran didn't leave by choice. Meanwhile, in the royal kitchens of the Zahor Empire, the chef returned. He called his assistant, a young alien named Criallo. "Prepare the extraction chamber," he ordered. "We need more." "But sir," Criallo said, "it's against the Treaty of Sentient Rights." The chef's eyes burned through his mask. "That treaty means nothing now," he said. "The nobles want nectar, and we will give it to them." Criallo hesitated. He was the one who first discovered the effect of human biofluids. He thought it was science, a one-time experiment. But now it was turning into something far worse. He knew the chef would not stop. He also knew more humans would suffer. And deep inside, he felt regret, because the first test subject, the one who created the original sample, was someone he once cared for. As the stars turned above Earth, more ships began to vanish. Humans disappeared from colonies, from transports, from outposts. No traces, no answers. Only a growing fear. And in hidden places across the galaxy, rich aliens whispered one word like it was a secret treasure: nectar. But none of them asked how it was made or how long the human could survive the process, because in their world, flavor was power, and power was worth any price. Even if it meant turning humans into ingredients high above the desert moon of Karsos. A royal feast was about to begin. The Zahor Empress sat on her throne made of crystal bones. Waiting, hundreds of alien nobles from across the galaxy were gathered. The servants moved quickly. placing colorful dishes on long tables, dishes from every corner of space. But the Empress did not smile. She was waiting for one thing. One dish, one flavor, one secret. Then the masked royal chef entered, holding a black tray covered with a silver dome. He placed it in front of her and bowed low. "Your Majesty," he said. "A taste that no empire has ever known." The room went silent. The Empress slowly lifted the dome. There was a tiny cup inside, filled with golden liquid that glowed. In the dark, it looked like honey, but the scent was richer, deeper, and somehow a live nectar, she whispered. She dipped her finger into the cup and placed a drop on her tongue. And in that moment, everything changed. Her vision exploded with colors she had never seen. Her skin felt like it was floating in sunlight. Her thoughts moved faster than light. She could hear every heart in the room beating. The Empress stood up, shaking with power. "This," she said, "is beyond cuisine. This is divine ascension." Gasps echoed through the hall. The nobles scrambled to request their own supply. Some begged, some offered entire fleets. One even offered his firstborn child. The chef bowed again and said calmly, "Nectar is rare, but we are working on." More word spread like fire through the stars. The Treaty of Sentient Harvesting, signed centuries ago to protect weaker species, was now a joke. Secret labs were activated. Hidden ships were sent toward human colonies. The plan was simple: harvest more humans on a mining station near Jupiter. A human woman named Rayna felt uneasy. Her brother had vanished last week during a cargo transfer, and now more workers were missing. She heard whispers in the dark. Stories about alien ships that don't make contact, they just take. She spoke to the station commander, but he laughed. "Aliens wouldn't touch us," he said. "We're protected by the treaty." Rayna didn't believe him. She started wearing a hidden tracker and told her friends to do the same. She had a gut feeling, and it was about to come true that night. A ship appeared above the station, silent and fast. Dark metal, no signals, no warnings. Within seconds, the power went out. Doors were forced open, airlocks breached. Dozens of humans were taken quietly, quickly, without a fight. The next morning, Rayna woke up in a metal cage. Strange lights above her, cold floor under her, and the smells, wheat, familiar, dangerous. She was inside an alien facility. Outside her cage, two scientists stood watching her. One of them whispered, "This one looks strong." The other nodded. "Her blood may produce a stronger nectar." Rayna's heart froze. She understood now. They weren't just kidnapping humans. They were milking them, turning humans into living machines for alien pleasure. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the United Human Council met in secret. A message had arrived, smuggled through a rogue AI network. It showed a lab, a captive human, and a tube filled with glowing nectar. The president of Earth stood up, his voice shaking. "They broke the treaty," he said. "They broke the line between culture and cruelty." The room was quiet. Then a voice from the shadows spoke. "We have something they don't." "What's that?" The president asked, anger. The voice replied, "Rage that burns across stars, across the galaxy." While alien chefs competed to make the most powerful nectar, they forgot one thing: humans fight back. They always do, and this time, they weren't coming with lawyers or diplomats. They were coming with fire. Far from the golden palaces and royal kitchens, on a lonely cargo planet named Delthornine, a forgotten kitchen burned softly in the dark. Its master, a quiet alien named Criallo, stood beside a locked chamber. He stared at the blinking red light. On the door, his hands trembling. Inside that chamber was his biggest secret and his biggest regret. Criallo had once worked for the royal kitchens of the Zahor Empire. He was the first to taste the nectar, the first to unlock its powers. But he was also the first to feel guilt, because the human who gave him that first drop was someone he didn't want to hurt. Her name was Maya. She had been captured during a trade ship raid, sold to the Empire, and brought in as a test subject. She wasn't supposed to survive, but she did, and every day Krilo talked to her, fed her and kept her safe until the orders came to extract the nectar. At first, it was just a few samples, a scientific trial, but the results were too good, too addictive. And Krilo watched as Maya grew weaker while the Empire grew stronger. He begged the chef to stop, but the masked royal only laughed. "Food must serve its highest purpose," he said. "You are too soft, Krilo." So Krilo did something dangerous. He lied. He swapped the real nectar with a synthetic version. He stole Maya in the night and fled the Empire. Now, weeks later, he kept her alive in cryosleep. Searching for a cure, he had tried 100 formulas, but her body was damaged from the early extraction, and the galaxy wanted her dead not for revenge, but for what she knew, that humans weren't just tasty. They were essential to the Empire's new power. One evening, as Krilo mixed another compound, he heard the chamber beep. Maya's eyes fluttered open slowly. She looked around, weak but aware. "Krilo," she whispered, "you saved me." He rushed to her side, holding her hand gently. "I had to," he said. "I couldn't watch you suffer anymore." She smiled softly. "You're not like the others." Before he could answer, an alarm blared. Krilo checked the monitor. 2 ships had landed outside. No flags, no signals, just hunters. They had tracked him. They were here to reclaim the nectar. Krilo grabbed a pulse rifle and sealed the chamber. "Stay hidden," he told Maya. No matter what, outside, the metal doors shook as the bounty hunters broke in. They were not royal soldiers, just thugs paid by greedy nobles who wanted more of the rare liquid. Krilo fired warning shots and used smoke bombs to delay them. But they were fast, armored, and cruel. They cornered him in the lab, weapons raised. One of them snarled, "Give us the girl and the formula." Krilo stood firm. "You'll have to go through me," he said. The lead hunter laughed, gladly. Just as the gun fired, a secret panel opened behind Krilo. A blast of white light hit the hunter's chest. Maya had taken the backup gun. "I'm not a victim anymore," she said, stepping forward. Still weak, but standing, together, they fought their way out, blasting consoles and sealing doors. Krilo triggered the auto-destruct for the lab. Wiping all nectar data, the last thing he said before escaping with Maya was this: "If they want nectar, let them choke on ashes." They escaped on a stolen shuttle, leaving the hunters behind as the lab exploded in the sky. Now fugitives, they had nothing, no home, no allies, no safety, but they had each other and one burning mission: to stop the galaxy from ever tasting human nectar again. Because Krilo no longer saw humans as ingredients, he saw them as people. And Maya was not just his mistake. She was his redemption. The sky over New Alaska was clear that night. Stars blinked gently, and cold winds blew across the snowy forest. But something was wrong. The animals had vanished. Birds stopped singing, and even the wind seemed afraid. Inside a small cabin, a hunter named Eli Cross cleaned his old rifle. He lived alone, far from cities, far from noise, but tonight he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching. Then the ground shook, not like thunder, but like something heavy had landed, soft, silent, and massive. Eli stepped outside and looked up. Above the trees, floating without a sound, was a dark ship as wide as a football field. It had no lights, no markings, just a dull black skin that shimmered like oil, and it was lowering small round drones that glowed red underneath. He aimed his rifle, but knew it was useless. This wasn't human tech. This was alien. The drones scanned the area, their red beams moving like searchlights. Eli dropped to the ground and rolled behind. a log. He watched as the drones floated toward a nearby cabin, his neighbors. Then he heard a scream. Short, sharp, and then silence. The drone flew back up into the ship, carrying something long and heavy. The ship made no sound as it rose, then vanished into the clouds. Eli stood frozen. He knew what he had seen, and he knew this was not the first time across Earth. In forests, mountains, and oceans, people were disappearing, quietly, secretly, one by one. They were taken from small villages, isolated camps, remote outposts, never from cities, never with noise, always clean, always hidden. But now, Earth was waking up. The Global Defense Network received over 50 missing reports that same night. From unconnected areas, the Council of Earth met in emergency session. A general slammed a tablet on the table. "This is no longer abduction," he said. "This is harvesting across the table," a scientist whispered. Harvesting for what? No one answered, but in orbit, watching from high above, the AI known as Paladin did. Paladin was a forgotten defense program from the last alien war, once feared, now deactivated. But the strange energy readings from the black ships had reactivated him. His deep voice echoed inside a hidden chamber under Antarctica. Foreign signals confirmed. Harvest pattern detected. Mission: reactivate planetary shield. Back in the sky, the harvester ships continued their quiet hunt. They were fast, quiet, and impossible to trace. Each one collected a few humans, then disappeared into deep space. Most governments were too slow to act, afraid of causing panic, but Paladin was not afraid. He deployed stealth drones across the planet, tracking the next harvest zone, and on a small island in the Pacific, he found what he was looking for. A hidden alien base built inside a dormant volcano, humans kept in cages, hooked to machines. Their blood slowly drawn and filtered into golden vials. Nectar. Paladin sent a signal to Earth Command. Base located, permission to strike. But Earth's command hesitated. "If we strike now," one officer said, "they'll know we're watching. They already know we're weak," the general growled. "It's time to show them we bite." Eli, meanwhile, had made his way to the city. He told his story to a reporter named Liza Ray. At first, she didn't believe him until she found dozens of similar reports in her files. She released the story to the public, and the reaction was fire. Protests, panic, and fear spread everywhere. People demanded answers, protection, revenge. And the name of the enemy spread online like a virus. The harvesters. Paladin's attack finally came. 3 stealth missiles flew silently into the volcano base and detonated deep inside. The mountain cracked, flames roared, and the alien base turned into ash. But not before one transmission escaped into deep space. A cold robotic voice spoke. Only 3 words: "Earth has noticed, far away." On a luxury alien station, a noble chef watched the message with narrowed eyes. He sipped a spoon of stolen nectar and whispered, "Then, let's take more," because now they knew something. Terrible human nectar was stronger when taken during fear, and the next harvest would not be silent. The stars above Sector 12 burned red beneath them. Hidden behind asteroid fields and signal jammers, floated the most forbidden place in the galaxy, Veltorin, a black market so secret it wasn't on any map. And inside it stood the bazaar of beasts, where creatures were not bought, they were tasted. At the center of the market stood a round stage, soaked in lights and surrounded by the rich and powerful. Aliens of every kind sat in floating chairs, wearing masks made of bone and gold. They had no names here, only numbers. They had no morals, only hunger from iron cages below the stage. Workers dragged out living beings, rare beasts, mutated insects, even living fungi. But when a human was brought out, the crowd leaned forward. She was young, fierce-eyed, and her hands were cuffed with plasma restraints. Her name was Rayna, the auctioneer, a tall insectoid with silver wings, tapped his staff against the floor. Next sample, he hissed, untouched, earthborn. Clean blood. Rayna didn't tremble. She stared at the crowd and clenched her fists. She wasn't just a prisoner, she was a spy. Weeks ago, Rayna had volunteered to be captured. She had been trained by Earth's Black Squad to infiltrate the market and find the source of the nectar trade. She wore a tracking chip in her spine and a neural recorder in her eye. Everything she saw was being sent to a hidden human ship in orbit. But now her time was running out, because once a human was bought, they were either drained or devoured. Suddenly, a familiar face appeared in the crowd. Maya, dressed as an alien servant, covered in makeup and artificial skin. She gave Rayna the slightest nod, then vanished into the shadows. Rayna knew what it meant. The plan had started. Across the market, Maya moved quickly, disabling security drones and planting explosives in power nodes. She wasn't alone. Krilo, the ex-chef, followed her, carrying a stolen access card and a small vial of poison. "This place is a factory of monsters," Maya whispered. "We burn it to the ground." Back on stage, bidding had begun. 5 million credits, said one alien. 6. "And I want a fresh draw," said another, licking its sharp teeth. Rayna stayed calm. She knew they would take her soon, but she also knew what was waiting. Just as the auctioneer slammed his staff to declare the sale, the lights cut out. Then came the boom loud. Sharp and final explosions rocked the market from the inside. Fire poured from the ceiling. Alarms screamed. Panic followed. Nobles screamed and scrambled for their ships. Guards pulled weapons, and slaves ran for the exits. Rayna broke her cuffs, using a hidden plasma filament in her boot. She leaped off the stage and grabbed a fallen stun rod. Knocking 2 guards to the floor, Maya met her at the gate, bleeding from a cut on her cheek. "You're late," Rayna said, grinning. "You're welcome," Maya replied, handing her a pulse pistol. Together, they led a group of freed humans and aliens through the burning halls. Some of the aliens had been prisoners, 2 captured, drained, and nearly broken. Now they were fighters in the central chamber. Krilo hacked the system and played alive. Video feed across the galaxy. Alien screens lit up with the truth humans being drained, injected, and processed into Nectar. He broadcasted every file, every recipe, every auction. "No more secrets, no more silence. The galaxy will know," Krilo said. "And the buyers will feel shame." Rayna placed charges around the Nectar processing tanks. "Let's make sure they taste regret too, as the rebels escaped unstolen." Ships, the market collapsed behind them in flames. Veltorin would not rise again. But the damage was done. Now the galaxy knew. News spread like wildfire. Alien activists demanded justice. Some empires banned Nectar instantly. Others, in secret, sent more ships toward Earth. Because despite the horror, one truth remained. Human nectar worked, and for the greedy, that was all that mattered. The royal palace of the Zahor Empire once echoed with music and laughter. Now it echoed with screams. Alien nobles stumbled through the marble halls. Eyes wide, skin glowing, voices cracked with madness. They were overdosing on nectar. At first, the nectar made them faster, smarter, stronger. But then it twisted their minds. Visions turned into hallucinations. Pleasure turned into pain. Some ripped out their own eyes. Others clawed at the walls, thinking they were melting. The Empress locked herself in her throne room. Trembling as her own hands shook, she had consumed too much. She saw shadows moving even when the lights were on. She whispered to herself over and over. The taste was worth it, but her voice cracked. And deep inside, she knew she had made a terrible mistake. Across the galaxy, other empires fell into chaos. Rich elites fought over fake nectar. Willing to kill for even a drop, entire ships were hijacked mid-flight. Just for their human cargo, markets collapsed, wars started. and the word nectar became a curse. But for the humans, the war had only begun. In Earth's orbit, the rogue defense AI Paladin activated full defense mode. Thousands of drones flew from underground silos, creating a protective net around the planet. No more secret harvests. No more silent disappearances, Paladin had learned. The galaxy didn't understand peace, so now Earth would speak with fire. Inside a secret bunker, Rayna, Maya, and Criello gathered with human commanders. The stolen data from Veltorin had shocked the world. Everyone finally understood how deep the Nectar trade had spread. "This isn't just about food," Rayna said. "This is about control." Maya nodded, her eyes tired but burning with anger. "They made us ingredients," she whispered. "But they forgot one thing we bite back." Criello stood beside her, holding a new formula. "I've been working on a cure," he said. "A way to reverse the damage done to Nectar victims." Rayna raised an eyebrow. "You want to save the monsters?" "No," Criello said. "I want to destroy the addiction." The humans launched Operation Burn Root. Every known Nectar lab across the galaxy was targeted. Some were bombed, others were hacked and turned against their owners. The worst lab of all was on a drifting asteroid called Black Core. It was said to hold the original sample, the first press. The nectar taken from the very first human victim. And Maya knew who that was. "Aaron," she whispered. "Her friend who vanished so long ago." Rumor said his body was kept alive. Frozen, used again and again. Paladin located the asteroid. It was protected by pirate fleets and cloaked mines. But Earth sent its best ship, the Resolve. Rayna led the strike team. Maya went with her, and Criello, holding his antidote, followed silently. They fought their way into the lab. Past alien guards and mad addicts, deep inside, they found Aaron, still breathing, still hooked to machines. His eyes opened slowly. "Maya," he croaked. "You came." She fell to her knees, tears running down her face. "We're getting you out," she said. "I'm sorry it took so long." Criello injected the antidote. Aaron gasped. Then slowly, his body relaxed. The glow in his veins faded. He was free. Rayna planted explosives around the tanks labeled First Press before they left. She placed a note on the main console. It read, "This is what happens when you taste the forbidden." As the asteroid exploded behind them, a wave of fire erased the heart of the Nectar trade across the stars. Addicted nobles cried out as their supply vanished, but the smart ones began to hide. Because Earth was angry now, and Earth had teeth. The galaxy had never seen Earth like this. Not begging, not hiding, not sending diplomats. This time, Earth was hunting in every system where human nectar had once been traded. Earth's Black Flag warships appeared, not with warnings, but with justice. Stealth cruisers struck labs in silence. Orbital drones burned trade stations to ash. The age of harvest was over. And at the center of it all was a message. Simple, powerful, impossible to ignore. "We are not your ingredients." Maya stood before the Galactic Union Council, dressed in black armor. Her voice was calm. But behind her stood thousands of rescued humans. Footage of what had happened, of what was done to them, played behind her. "You called it flavor," Maya said. "You called us rare, exotic, valuable. But we were screaming. We were begging. And you never stopped to ask why." The chamber was silent. Even the most powerful empires had no defense left. Because the truth had reached every home, every screen, every citizen. And for the first time, the galaxy felt shame. Criello stood beside Maya. No longer in a chef's uniform, he had turned. Over every recipe, every supplier, every name. He was a traitor to his own kind, but also the one who helped break the system. The council passed the sentient trade ban. A new law making it a war crime to consume or extract any fluid from a sentient being. The vote passed without a single objection. But Earth wasn't done. Rayna led the Iron Accord, a new human-led defense packed with rebel aliens. Together, they formed a strike force that chased down the last of the Nectar smugglers. No more markets, no more tastings, only fire and consequence. Paladin, now fully reactivated, became Earth's voice across the stars. His warning played on every frequency, every channel, every ship that dared approach Earth. Consent is not. A luxury violation will be punished, and slowly the galaxy began to change. Alien chefs returned to real cooking. They started using plants again, spices, roots, and even human-approved ingredients grown in labs. Some even invited humans to help, not as tools, but as equals. In one bright kitchen aboard a peace station, Krilo opened a new restaurant. He called it Redemption, and on the first night, his guest of honor was Maya. He served her a simple Earth dish, hot soup and bread. No chemicals, no extractions, just warmth. Maya smiled. "Best thing I've ever tasted," she said. Krilo laughed softly. No pain in this recipe. Aaron recovered slowly, living in peace far from the stars. Rayna became a general and trained the next generation of defenders. The word Nectar was erased from menus, from markets, from memory. But the scars remained, and that was good. Because forgetting meant it could happen again. And humanity had learned some flavors cost too much at the edge of the galaxy. On a small planet covered in flowers, a statue stood tall. It showed a human girl breaking her chains, and an alien kneeling beside her, handing her a plate below. It were the words, "Justice is not sweet, but it feeds the soul," and somewhere in deep space. As new stars were born, a voice whispered across the void, "We were prey. Now we're legend. We were ingredients. Now we are chefs of destiny." And the galaxy would never forget the taste of justice.